YouTube, social media. I wanted to play for you in a video, Face the Nation. It's about 9 minutes long, and we'll watch it together, and then we'll talk about it, because I don't think this video is going to age all too well. I have my serious doubts. Things like this and accusations like this are compelled to be hidden for a time, but they always surface and things are discovered. So let's watch this together and we'll talk about it on the back end.
Joined now by Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Margaret.
We have a lot to get to with you, but I want to pick up on where the Treasury Secretary just left off. He alleged that people who were tied to you or your campaign were involved in this broad, brazen scheme to rip off the Minnesota state welfare system. Do you want to respond to that? Do you know what he is referring to?
I really don't, and I don't think the secretary himself understands what he's referring to. We obviously had people who were able to donate to our campaign that were involved. We sent that money back a couple years ago. And actually, I was one of the first members of Congress to send a letter to the Secretary of Ag asking them to look into what I thought was a reprehensible fraud that was occurring within the program.
So this was, just for our audience, the Biden-era Justice Department called it the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country. And this was pocketing COVID-era welfare funds, more than $1 billion in taxpayer money that was stolen. It was pretty shocking. Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also, as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, though, that there was a failure by the Democratic state government to police itself? This is a brazen, fraudulent activity here.
Yeah, and that is what I alluded to in my letter that I'd sent to the Secretary of Ag, was to see where things were going wrong. How can this amount of money disappear fraudulently without there being alarms being set off? And it is something that, we have to continue to investigate. We have to continue to ask those questions.
Because, as you know, one of the initial defenses by the organization at the heart of the fraud, Feeding Our Future, was to claim the probe was due to racism. Do you think that this was all about negligence, or that it was like political fear of alienating the Somali community?
So you have to remember that the woman who led the program is a Caucasian woman. And that was her way of making sure that this would continue to happen by using whatever rhetoric that was available to her. We do know that when the money was stopped, they did sue. The AG, Attorney General Keith Ellison, defended the department in that lawsuit. It was a judge that said it should continue, that money should continue to go out. And so this wasn't something that people were not looking at. There was always those alarms, and we will continue to understand where things might have gone wrong as these investigations continue and as these fraudsters are prosecuted and sent to jail.
Well, it's going to have impact for your community because we've already heard that the head of Medicare and Medicaid say they're going to have a new policy that applies to Minnesota. You heard the Treasury Secretary say they're investigating. But there's another thread here because House Republicans and the Treasury Secretary just now talked about a link to terrorism, a possible link. He said they're just now beginning to look into it. How confident are you that that's a false claim?
I'm pretty confident at the moment because there are people who have been prosecuted and who have been sentenced. If there was a linkage in that the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI and our court system in not figuring that out and basically charging them with these charges. And so I do know that for many years, this sort of like alarm that there is money being transferred through the airport in bags and going to terrorism that accusation has always existed. There's never been here and there in those accusations. But if that is the case, if money from U.S. tax dollars is being sent to help with terrorism in Somalia, we want to know.
Yeah.
And we want those people prosecuted. And we want to make sure that that doesn't ever happen again.
So there are 80,000 people of Somali descent in your state, but the president has been very focused, not just on them, but on you. In this extraordinary cabinet meeting, he said Somalis, quote, come from hell. They complain and they do nothing but bitch. Take a listen.
These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. We don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
That knocking is vehement agreement from his cabinet members there. I just wonder what the reaction is in your district to have that from the highest office in the land.
It's disgusting. It's completely disgusting. These are Americans that he is calling garbage. And we feel like there is an unhealthy obsession that he has on the Somali community and an unhealthy and creepy obsession that he has with me. I think it is also really important for us to remember that this kind of hateful rhetoric and this level of dehumanizing can lead to dangerous actions by people who listen to the president.
And 95% of the Somalis in your state are U.S. citizens.
Yes.
Just for clarity there. But the president has restricted all immigration processing, including asylum claims from Somalis already on U.S. soil, along with 18 other countries. ICE reports it has rounded up about 19 people. And they put out press releases with the images of about 5 of them that they say are the worst of the worst. Is that the entirety of the crackdown to date?
Yeah, so far we know of the people that they've picked up in Minnesota. About 5 of them are Somalis. And from what I have read and from the people that I've spoken to, all of them had already had orders of removal. So these are not people who are undocumented, but people who have committed crimes and who should have already been sent out of the country.
I want to ask you about something else that the architect of the president's immigration policy, Stephen Miller, said. On Thanksgiving Day, he posted, "No magic transformation occurs when failed states cross borders. At scale, migrants and their descendants recreate the conditions and terrors of their broken homelands." What do you make of this argument of failure to assimilate and sort of ruining America? How do you understand this?
I mean, when I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me, yes, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people in Germany. And you know, as we know, there have been many immigrants who've tried to come to the United States who've turned back, one of them being Jewish immigrants. We know the way that people were described who were coming from Ireland, Irish immigrants. We know the way in which people were described back then when they were Italian immigrants. And to me, you know, we're yes, of course, ethnically Somali. We are in this country as Americans.
Yeah.
We are citizens. We are producers productive part of this nation, and we will continue to be.
Congresswoman Omar, thank you for your time today.
Here with me now.
So, let's talk about it. I think Ilhan Omar is being quite defensive, calling Stephen Miller or associating him with the Nazis and the Jewish people. This woman is not intelligent enough to understand what actually transpired, or is just not referencing what actually happened to the Jewish people in Germany. I don't think any of the Somalis in Minnesota are at forced concentration camps. I don't think any of them are at gunpoint, forcing to do the bidding of the American state, building trenches and railroads and working in caves, building the V-2 rocket, or hollowing out a mountainside to make a Nazi complex. I don't think any of them are doing that. But many of the Jewish people, if not all of them, in Germany, during the time that she's referring to when the Nazi Party was prevalent and in control, she doesn't understand the tragic end of those people that she made a reference to. The woman is not intelligent, arrogant, and Stephen Miller is doing nothing of the kind. Stephen Miller happens to be a very well-spoken individual, speaks in plain truth. I don't think he is remotely successfully being accused here. In other words, this woman is a full-blown idiot and should be charged as such for stupidity. And what if we do find, after a full, because you know there's going to be a full investigation as to what transpired and how it happened. I mean, we're not talking $1,000. We're not talking, $50,000 lost from American taxpayers. I do think the CBS reporting of what you just saw, I would say it's, pretty compelling reporting. That too might be for show. Who knows if they edited this video as they did previous ones. I don't quite think so, because Paramount Network owns CBS, and they already paid in a lawsuit, or I guess the money was to avoid a lawsuit, something like $16 million to Donald Trump, or, through Donald Trump. He won that case. The case didn't even go to court. All right? And what I'm referring to, of course, is the 60-minute interview with Kamala Harris, where she gave two bonehead answers, and then they went in the editing room and kind of spliced them together to make her look more intelligent than she actually is. So that actually did happen because she, like this piece of garbage, is not that intelligent. So I think, a lot of stuff, they try to conceal it, they try to bury it. And sooner or later, it bubbles to the surface and is discovered. Half America believed at one time that the Russian dossier was real. Democrats tried to sell that. Oh, they all knew that it wasn't real or valid. But they, indicted Donald Trump and impeached him over the very subject. Now, Donald Trump was acquitted in that case, and as well as the other case on a perfect phone call. All right, that he had with the leader of Ukraine. So he was acquitted there as well. But I don't trust this woman. One tiny micro amount of measurement. All right, I think she is a snake. I think she is guilty of sin. And I do believe time is on our side. I do believe this woman is not telling the truth, and she knows more than what she's letting on. I mean, that's why I wanted to play the video, so you could see the interaction if you happen to miss the initial airing of the Face the Nation program. Just the way she's answering. Oh, we want to see people prosecuted, and, look, there's too many of these Somalians, too many of their hands in this mix. And again, we're talking about over $1 billion with a B dollars. And there's reports of money being going over there for terrorism. I do believe that the Trump administration and all things that are related to Trump and all the people that he has at his disposal are the very best people that any American government has ever had. So, either this woman is going to disappear on her own, fly away and never come back again, or, her arrogance, her so-called innocence is going to come down to her, and she knew about it, and so did Tim Waltz, and, this didn't, and more importantly, boys and girls, this did not happen in a red state. This didn't happen in Texas. This did not happen in Oklahoma. This did not happen in Florida. It happened in Minnesota. Now, I know there might be other states in the Union that have Somalians in them, but I believe she said there's 80,000 Somalians. And no, they're all U.S. citizens. Yeah, no, they were granted U.S. citizenship, like a bulk membership into the country, calling themselves, no, now you're American, by the illegitimate Joe Biden. And what happens if we determine and we find out that that order was also by Otto Penn? Joe Biden was a complete, utter fool. And when we took a look at where we commented on social media, and media in general about how he moved, how he walked, how he talked. His spokesperson said we're making deep fake videos. Come to find out, we weren't making deep fake videos of any kind. That was who he was. He actually did move that slowly and did have that speech impediment and was lost more times than he wasn't. So I just don't trust her at all. Has nothing to do, truly, with racism. But I do believe that I just don't, I don't like the woman. I don't like how her and her two other little troublemakers came out against Donald Trump in 2016. We're going to impeach the MFer. Remember that? She was part of that. Over $1 billion, folks. And you expect me to believe that she's on the up and up. All right. She's a Somalian. Okay? Zebra doesn't change its stripes. All right? They just don't. And more importantly, she's not just any Somalian. She was part of the leadership, a part of the government there in Somalia. And Donald Trump's right. It is a shithole country. And it fell apart. They didn't treat their people fairly. People revolted. There's no structure. All that stuff is true, what Donald Trump is indicating. Do you think Donald Trump's just making it up as he goes along? Why don't you do your own research? I don't believe that Donald Trump will be wrong in this particular case. He's Donald Trump. All right. And a lot of things that Donald Trump has come out with, if Donald Trump goes after you with the vigor of Donald Trump, it's not going to be good for you. I can guarantee you a very full investigation will be done here. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I do not believe it's going to end well for her and her cronies, to use a phrase, cronies. The left likes to use that word too, by calling, the cronies of Donald Trump. We're on the right side of history. Me and my party and my conservatism and how I believe in American exceptionalism. All right, and people like her are going to lose. Here's one of my key phrases. Big league. We'll see what happens. And if she should fall from grace. Oh man, there's going to be another video about that. A victory lap. Because, you know what? I do believe it's going to happen. And I believe a whole lot more is going to come out. And the truth always finds its way to the surface. And this woman here, I don't think she's being honest. I mean, Christ, she came over to this country and she had to marry her brother. What is that all about? She had to marry her brother to become a U.S. citizen. And then she ran in the state of Minnesota and was voted in by who? American citizens that just recently got their blanket membership into the United States as, 80,000 people are now Americans with a couple slips of the pen. You know, being American is something that should never just, gone through as a, 10-minute exercise or however long that these people. I don't believe that they were fully went through the entire process. They're refugees, all, and they were brought here, and now they're so-called American citizens. Well, they're American citizens, and over $1 billion is gone, and they're, it's supposed to go toward these programs, or, all kinds of different programs, to help out the poor and other programs that helped out the unfortunate. $1 billion. You know what? That investigation, every stone is going to be overturned at least twice. And I do believe this woman is going to be at the very heart of it. And Tim Waltz, Tampon Tim, they refer to him as, because you know why they call him Tampon Tim, right? Because he wanted to put feminine napkins into men's bathrooms, because he believes, or did at one time, that men could menstruate. No, they can't bleed. They have no female reproductive organs. Men do not have those. But even the Democratic Party cannot answer the question, what is a woman? So there you go. Yeah. This does not pass the smell test. It just doesn't. So we'll wait to see what happens with this. I'll be watching this very closely. And if this woman does fall from grace, boy, are we going to celebrate.